In this video, Windows 10 is over. Install Openmandriva and Purging Demons. Do you know that Windows 10 is about to be phased out by Microsoft? This means that if you're still using it, you will no longer receive updates. You might ask then, is that bad? Well, not really. On one hand, this means that Microsoft will no longer force updates on your machine without your consent that may cause you to lose your job, fail university, and a thermonuclear war. Over time, though, more and more exploits will eventually be found in Windows 10 codebase, and without security updates, your system will be vulnerable to bad actors. This means that your good old stash may be accessed by other people without your consent, be denied access to your data by malware, your machine be taken over to become part of an evil organization's botnet, and your online presence be destroyed by losing your credentials. Not to mention, be weaponized to penetrate other devices on your network, home, or where else. Not that Microsoft isn't doing this yet if you continue using Windows 10 or 11. So, what are your options? As of writing, you can continue getting critical security updates until October 2026 for $30 for doxing you and your machine further by enrolling to Windows Backup or by selling your soul to Microsoft Rewards. All options a defecation to you, the user. By the way, you know that EU dwellers can get critical security updates until October 2026 for free. Maybe that's a reason to move to EU. Probably. All hope is not lost, though. After all, the Omnissiah has blessed us with the superior GNU Linux to purge our machines of corporate impurity and take back control. Which brings us to the end of 10 website. You'll see here that they say Microsoft wants you to buy a new computer. It's actually true. Due to the amount of spyware and telemetry packed in Windows 11, old computers will not be able to serve Microsoft's end goal of spying on you, taking your data to use for advertisement and our AI training data, and a way to serve you ads. Hence, they're not willing to support your old and busted machine with their shiny new Windows 11 operating system. They do have other reasons here, but basically, it just means that you save money, you keep your data and information to yourself, discouraging further destruction of the planet by piling functioning machines into waste, but also discouraging production of more when it's not needed, support from your fellow Mechanicus, and full freedom and control of your machine. That said, the amount of Mechanicus groups that produce their own GNU Linux distributions are quite plentiful. And choosing your first GNU Linux might look more perilous than it seems, but it's really not. It really just depends who you're talking to. In this house, we used to install Ubuntu, but nowadays we recommend Openmandriva LX. We don't know what LX means, by the way. So, let's head over to their website to download. Cute website, very professional looking. And look at that, a relatively big download button. Here you will see the different versions they offer with a quick description. For most people, just stick with Rock. If you're inclined to dive in, go with Rome. Everything else, it may work, but you may be in over your head. Leave it for later or never at all. Then just scroll down till you see the Omux 6.0 Plasma. Click and expand that. Now first link is for most people. Third link is if it matches your machine. Second link, no. Wayland will bring you more trouble than what it promises. Scroll down and click on the ID link. Scroll down again and you should be able to find the files, including the .iso file we'll be using to install Openmandriva. So goy, that is a lot of steps. Of course there is a shortcut for that. Going back to the versions, you'll see something that says, download at SourceForge, and that will bring you to their SourceForge page that should automatically prompt the download or maybe an extra click. Indie devs. Purge and estando. Anyway, now you have an .iso. What do you do with it? It has to be turned into a bootable disk in order for it to work directly with your machine's BIOS or UEFI. This means you can't just copy it over to a USB, but you need tools like Balena Etcher or Rufus to write it a specific way for it to work. So, let's get into that. First, download Rufus. By the way, no matter the browser or adblock, only download from the HTTPS website of rufus.ie and nowhere else. It's probably malware if you download it anywhere else. Stick to official sources. We would recommend to stick with the portable version, as chances are good that it will continue to work in the future and across x86-64 Windows devices without much mess. Now, once you do, it doesn't really require any install, just open it directly from your Downloads folder, and you should have its main working window. I know it looks scary. Stop being scared by good software. Just ignore all the buttons and knobs and focus on the mission. Now, select your USB storage device. You do still have your old 8 GB USB storage sticks, right? Then, for the boot selection, click Select and point it to the ISO image downloaded earlier. No need to tinker with anything at this point, and just press Start. Don't be afraid of the pop-up. Each distro is different, so we have to go against convention here and go with DD mode instead of ISO mode. Don't ask. And yes, read that. If you have important stuff on the USB, make sure you back it up somewhere else first, then just wait for it to finish. Close Rufus. Pull your USB stick out and turn off your machine. Now, the problem is entering your machine's BIOS. This is something very different per machine. You may want to look up your device's hardware information to get details about the motherboard or laptop. Look up how to enter the BIOS over the internet. And once you do, you can plug your USB stick back, turn the computer on, get into that BIOS, select your USB as a boot drive, and your machine should boot into Openmandriva. For recording convenience, we'll fire up a virtual machine to walk you through installation. Once we fire up the virtual machine, it will give you a few options upon boot, but we'll just let it slide into its default. We're going to ignore the live environment and proceed with the installation, since we can enjoy the desktop anyway after the installation. Top left, one of the desktop icons, is where we can go through the installation setup. The following windows will be asking several questions to help the user install the system. It's nothing amazing or strange, just a few questions like language. Got to make sure you and the machine are on the same page. Location mostly for time. Keyboard. It's like who uses anything else but US English anyway. Partition only really matters if you're dual booting, but not here. The first user setup, make sure you also tick the admin password to avoid additional things to remember, a summary, and the actual install process. Finally, we just have to wait for it to do its thing, and once prompted, remove the install media that would be your USB stick, and reboot your machine. Now, you have to appreciate the aesthetics done by the dev team here. Usually the grub screen is black and white, while most splash screens are just a bunch of initialization messages. In this case, they have added some graphics from grub to the splash screen until the desktop environment starts to take over. The desktop environment featured by Openmandriva is called KDE. Not really our taste, but it's one of the most popular options with lots of flexibility. Upon logging in, you will be greeted by the Openmandriva Welcome Greeter. This is a simple tool to help you transition from any OS to here. Yes, even if you come from another Linux distro, it's still worth a read since Openmandriva is not a daughter of other more popular GNU Linux distros like Debian, Red Hat, or Arch. This has a lot of tabs for certain tasks and information, but its main usage is to update and configure the system and hardware without using the terminal. Examples would be software update management, printers, monitors, NVIDIA drivers, and so on. In addition to that, recommended applications are also here, as well as other applications that are commonly used like GIMP and Krita for graphics, Steam and Lutris for gaming, other browsers like Google Chrome if you're into spyware, etc. Production tools like OBS and Audacity are also here. Recommended development environments, although I don't think you need anything else but a text editor for that, and other utilities. They even have some kid-friendly stuff like a music and pronunciation learning app, as well as Mario Kart, but Mario is replaced by a penguin. There are also a lot of pre-installed programs that give you basic functionality for your computer, such as card games, very important, GNU for your image viewer, Chromium for your web, MPV and QMplay for your media, LibreOffice for documents, and the many other KDE applications you probably wouldn't even need, but is present and correct if you'll need it. That's it for the fresh install. Now this here is an actual system we use. The developers did include a nice set of default wallpapers. Make sure you check them out. Firing NeoFetch, or actually FastFetch, just aliased, you'll see the actual bare metal specs here. Nothing amazing. Just an ancient Intel processor with a POS GT 1030. Purge Jib My Nayu GPU Senpoi. Why don't we do something productive? Like, playing Doom. Brutal Doom even. Usually, this is launched from the terminal, but for exhibition's sake, let's do it all in the user interface. Here we are. And while the Doom Oni-chan is purging demons off the entryway, let's talk about Idolmaster. There are reports on ProtonDB that Idolmaster Starlit Season sort of works by tinkering through certain versions of Proton, but with occasional stutters and freeze. Some even consider it unplayable. Idolmaster Gakuen and Idolmaster Shiny Colors Song for Prism also has PC clients. However, you have to go through the trouble of fooling DMM you're from Japan. Navigate the glorious website of Katakana Hiragana Kanji, and from there figure out how to get DMM Games Launcher to work. And only then can you actually start to tinker on how to get the games working. Idolmaster Shiny Colors does work on browsers. Use Chromium for that, by the way. The easiest way to play majority of the Idolmaster games, Gakumas, Shanison, Mirishita, and Darasude Rest Their Soul, is through a tool called SCRCPY. Supposedly, read a screen copy, but scrappy for us. Any Android game or tool, really? In addition to mirroring your phone screen, it can also allow you to do point-and-click interactions. From there, majority of the games can be played except for the rhythm part, but you can use the old touchscreen for that. Finally, the best way to enjoy it is through a wired connection via USB, which is a giant hassle, but input-output latency and visual fidelity is the best. And on that terrible note, it's time to end the show. Goo